State political scene, who join us every Tuesday to sound off on the week's top stories. Tonight we are joined from New York City by Blake Zeff. He is a former communications director to Senator Schumer. He worked on Hillary Clinton's 2008 campaign, then Barack Obama's 2008 campaign. He is now a managing director at Berlin Rosen Public Affairs. And in Albany, we are joined by Brendan Quinn. He is the former executive director of the state Republican Party and now a private consultant. Thank you very much for your time, gentlemen. I appreciate it. Blake, welcome. First time.
Thank you.
So let's get right to it, the mosque. And, I think this is less about where you stand and more about the president and why he weighed in and how he weighed in and whether he did it in an intelligent way. You want to kick it off, Brendan?
Well, it's a New York State, New York City-based location. It's based on 9/11 that becomes such a controversial issue. So I can understand Mayor Bloomberg having a position. I can understand David Paterson having an issue and a position. I can understand Schumer or Gillibrand and people in New York State having an issue. If someone could explain to me why the president stepped into this, I'd like to know, because it doesn't make sense.
Blake, perhaps you would like to explain.
Yeah, I would respectfully disagree. I think that, needless to say, 9/11 was obviously a national moment in time, and that has become kind of the backdrop for all of this. Certainly the opponents of the Islamic Center are basing their opposition on the events of 9/11, which clearly was as I said, a national event. So I don't fault the president for weighing in, and in fact, I'm proud to have frankly, a Democratic president and Republican mayor in New York City who have come together to say that this is the right thing to allow this to happen. But
wait, hold on. The mayor is not a Republican.
Thank you.
Wait, the mayor?
What is he?
I'm sorry, he used to be a Democrat, and then he was a Republican, and then he was an independent.
So he's actually an independent today.
Today he's an independent.
Okay, today's an independent. Okay. Well, the formerly Republican, formerly Democratic, now independent mayor who endorsed in the Democratic primary for Pennsylvania Senate the other day. Anyway, the point being that I don't think it's inappropriate for the president to weigh in. I was proud that he did it. I thought it was the right thing to do. The way in which it was done, I think, was a bit clumsy. Initially, a couple of weeks ago, Robert Gibbs, the press secretary for the White House, said, "We're not going to weigh in. This is a local issue." It's essentially what Brendan just said. And that actually would have been politically probably the most helpful to the House candidates on the Democratic side around the country, because then they could hide behind it and say, yes, this is a local issue. I don't have to do anything. Then last week, he then weighed in and said, actually, I support this. And then, of course, the day after, I wouldn't say that he backtracked, as has been reported, but he did kind of give a third answer. So him giving three different answers, I thought, undermined the clarity that such an important and sensitive topic requires. And so that was a bit politically clumsy. And then in terms of the political...
I see Brendan smiling. I just have to... What?
Well, he had three different answers. It's such a big issue, but he doesn't know which position he has. So he waded into something without thinking it all the way through or prepared for the reaction that he was going to get. And some of the most vocal critics against the president and his position were senators from the Democrat Party, Senator Harry Reid and other Democrats. And the Republicans really didn't have to say a lot because the Democrats are the ones that were balking at it across the country.
Okay, so I didn't mean to cut you off there, Blake, but do you think that the way, if you agree that he bungled this sort of, then do you think that that's actually going to have a long-term effect going into the midterms? Because now he sort of opened the box and Republicans are demanding that their opponents, take a position on an issue that I don't think people wanted to take a position on in many cases.
Right. I would just take issue with one of the things that Brendan said, which is that he kind of had to recalibrate his answer the next day because he didn't expect all this backlash. I think it was very obvious to everybody that this is a very sensitive topic. Everyone knows the polls that show that certainly not everybody supports this. And the president came out and said it anyway, despite knowing that there was going to be this kind of backlash. And because of that, I think that it was a very courageous thing to do. So I just wanted to clarify that. Now, you guys are both quite right that there is going to be political ramifications to this, and now other Democrats around the country are going to be brought into this issue where previously they weren't. What I would suggest to those Democratic candidates is, if your Republican opponents are hitting you on this Islamic Center that is a couple of blocks from Ground Zero because they're so concerned about the events of 9/11, you might want to ask them how they feel about the 9/11 health care bill that the Republicans are blocking in Congress.
Free advice.
The heroes of that day, yes, free advice, where the heroes of that day, the firefighters, cops, first responders, victims, victims, their families, their neighbors who have suffered injuries are not getting the health care that they need because the Republicans refuse to support this. So there's a little bit of hypocrisy there, and I think there's an opportunity for Democrats to not simply see this as a defeat on the issue.
Interesting. That's quite nuanced. Do you think it would work?
I think they're just trying to change the subject, and if you keep coming back to, well, the president took this position, what is your position? And again, the polls out there, and this is supposed to be a nonpartisan issue, and this is about the best interest of the people of New York State and the country, and they're reacting based on polls. And Senator Schumer and Senator Gillibrand are two of the senators that are from New York State that they're hiding on this issue.
Well, wait a minute. They're not hiding on this issue. They are not. I'm sorry. Senator Schumer says he's not opposed. He has not wanted to say a lot of things, but just today we saw Senator Gillibrand. She was outside of Rochester, and she said she supports Community Board 1's decision to support this plan. That's not hiding.
She had been previously.
Okay, all right. But actually, really, in terms of congressional races, how big of an issue is this going to be? For example, you have a congressional candidate in New York 23, and you have Matt Doheny. You saw
Yes.
Doug Hoffman come out and make a big statement about the president's statement about the mosque. I haven't heard anything from your candidate.
If you go up north, again, the further you go away from Manhattan, the less of this was an issue. The further you went out of New York State, it was less of an issue. Back to your earlier point, up until when the president made a statement about this, outside of downstate, most people were not focused on this, and it was a New York City-centric issue.